What's your reaction to the debt, to the fact that debt collection is now a multi-billion-dollar industry?
Well, you know, in some ways, I feel like this is very similar to what we talked about last section, as far as when an economy starts to go in a certain direction, whether it's productive or not, you have industries that grow up around that. And I think, you know, you put Americans in sort of unprecedented levels of debt, and the result is that you wind up creating an entire industry that's based around trying to collect that money from them. And that's pretty much exactly what that is. You know, it does seem like it is very much based, or a lot of times can be based on intimidation and all. And again, ultimately, what you have these people working at these companies doing is totally unproductive to the overall economy. You have people putting in, you know, millions of man hours, calling people, harassing people, sending notices. And ultimately, that's an entire industry built around, you know, collecting it's kind of a hidden tax on people. So, you know, again, unproductive use of this amazing amount of human capital that we have. And I guess that's kind of would be my main takeaway.
Reed, what about you? What is your reaction to this billion-dollar industry of debt collection?
Well, it's just another evil source of corporate power that is poisoning our culture and our country and destroying people's lives. The evils of medical debt cannot be overstated. And again, this is something that affects me personally because, for example, my brother Adam has been the most anchored by medical debt his entire life, and he still owes money to hospitals for care that he could not pay for. And they catch you again. You cannot separate one debt from another because it's all a system used to control people and basically imprison them in a system and a cycle that they're powerless to escape. My brother was forced, well, he had to get a job working in a kitchen, and he had to work in very dirty and deplorable circumstances. And he ended up getting a staph infection from a cut in his arm, and he got a systemic infection. I remember one time I asked him if he was going to die, and he couldn't answer me. I was younger at the time. I was a teenager, and he just said to me, "I'm doing everything I can to make sure that that doesn't happen." And that terrified the hell out of me because I knew that that answer was not, no, of course I'm not going to die. And my mother told me afterwards that actually he came very close to having to be hospitalized and possibly, you know, the infection going to his system and poisoning his entire system because he couldn't get the care that he needed. He kept having to go from hospital to hospital getting what care he possibly could to people who would give it to him because he didn't have insurance, and he ended up with severe medical debt. And now, you know, he can't get credit cards, he can't get loans, he has trouble getting even student loans, so he hasn't gotten back to school or anything like that. Again, it's just another stranglehold. It's another way of keeping you down, keeping you suppressed, keeping you controlled, and keeping you desperate so that they can impose whatever that they want on you. And once someone is sued for that debt, and once again, you're absolutely powerless because these people can't afford lawyers most of the time and have no chance of being able to defend themselves against these legal arguments, and their lawyers, their corporate lawyers that are fighting against them, they have no power over that, so they're obviously going to lose out.
Well, tying this into debt, we've actually seen an increase in hospitals that have staff from collection agencies right in the hospital, and they're indistinguishable from hospital staff. But I actually want to go to Daniel's point before we go back to you. Daniel, I wanted to get your reaction to why the fact that debt collection is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Well, you were about to hit the nail on the head there, because that's exactly where I'm going to go with this. That yes, many members of the hospital staff actually have members of debt collection agencies that are indistinguishable from the rest of the faculty. Yes. My brother recently, he has a form of cardiac arrhythmia. Never been to the freaking hospital in our entire fucking lives. Basically, he didn't even get to see a cardiologist. All they did was connect him to a heart machine, palpitation machine, and then sent him home with a $8,000 hospital fee. Now, whereas a young individual who has never been in the hospital before in his life, whereas a young individual who's barely started young adulthood, how's he going to afford $8,000 with a hospital? He's not going to. If people wonder why the U.S. economy is in shambles, that's the reason why.
And it's most people,
or let alone anyone. I mean, not even just someone, not even a student starting out. $8,000 is a huge amount of money for anybody.
And they'll actually come to your hospital room and harass you about whether or not you're going to be able to pay your bill too. While you're in the hospital dying or whatever, they will actually come in there and harass you about money.
Right. And I wanted to get to the point that most young people around our age, about 20 to 30, don't actually have insurance, and they're unable to get those good-paying jobs that offer those kinds of benefits as well. So that just adds another problem into the mix of medical debt and into debt collection. As, like I said, 60% of bankruptcies are caused from medical debt. And you see a lot of debt collection agencies starting to buy up a lot more medical debt. I mean, just the fact that the Rolling Jubilee had to come in and buy $1 million of medical debt, it just shows that it's a $1 billion problem.
Well, and the fact, I mean, the whole idea that they are able to purchase this debt, on the second market, which you're totally able to do. That's how debt collection works. But whenever we talk about the level of debt that people have and writing down some of that debt, whether it's for mortgages, like you mentioned, Jeff, in the last segment, writing down underwater mortgages, whatever the case may be, those creditors do a huge write-down when they sell off this debt for pennies on the dollar. So they're more than willing to take that write-down. They just don't want to do it in the manner that is, kind of easiest for people, unfortunately.